Obstetricians of Reddit, have you ever had a me, myself, and Irene situation where you delivered a baby that was very obviously not the father's while he was in the room? What was that like? On rotation at a children's hospital we had a light black skinned baby born to two white parents. We were all like shooting glances at each other. Parents were super happy and didn't say anything. We later meet baby's granddad who was black. I work in surgery and assist the OB-GYNs with C-sections. I have not come across any big issues in my many years. Most of the ones I've come across know they are not the biological father but are willing to raise the child anyways, or they flip out back in the department. The craziest thing that happened on my shift was a couple came in for an semi-emergency CS. Class 1 baby in distress but not life-threatening yet. Baby was 5 weeks early but all was good. We get them back to LD and went on with the day. A few hours later we get a call for another class 1 CS, this time for failure to progress. We set up the room, get mom numbed and ready, then bring in dad. All standard stuff. We take one look at dad and go, wait, weren't you just in here earlier? Mom laughed and then told us this story. Mom B and dad used to date. Well, she got pregnant and they broke up before she found out. A little over a month later he meets mom A and gets her pregnant quickly, before mom B has found out about her pregnancy. So here's this guy expecting 2 kids 6 weeks apart. Mom B went into labor a little overdue and they go to the hospital to have the baby. It's a long labor. The next morning mom A wakes up in pain. So bad she has to go to be checked out. Turns out she in early labor and it's coming fast. The baby wants out now. The guy ended up with a boy and girl born on the same day by 2 different women. The kicker is they all lived together. Mom B and dad had got a place together and he just moved into the spare room after they broke up. Once he found out about the pregnancies, the moms decided they got along well enough to all live together and make it work. They had lived together 7 months at this point. Dad and mom A were still together and mom B was happy to have dad in her child's life. It was a crazy day. That's a rare happy ending for this sort of thread. Years ago, my mum saw a woman at church who had just had a baby. The woman was white. Dad was white. Baby was black. People assumed the kid was adopted because of the fact that the dad wasn't upset or gullible. Turns out, the baby was both their biological child. They'd had a test done soon after it was born. One of the parents, I forget which, had had a black great-grandparent or something, and the genetics had skipped a generation or 2. I'm the opposite. After Mennonite and Hispanic generations, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, sister, mom and dad, I turned out pink white. Apparently it comes from my great-grandmother who was a very pale French lady. I also don't exactly look like anyone in my family, just bits here and there. My fiance asks me to do a DNA test all the time, lol. Med student here, was doing my OB rotation and parents came in for a post-birth follow-up with a ginger child. Dad was joking about the red-headed bastard but I got the feeling he wasn't really joking and no one was laughing. You know, as a redhead, you can be surprised how it skips generations. Both of my parents were dark-haired and had 3 children with vivid auburn hair. Red hair is rare in general, but genes are funny that way. I've had 2 situations like this in my career so far. Both were pretty similar situations. It was so painfully obvious that the guy was not the biological father. In both cases, it was so obvious that neither parent asked me any questions about it. That was fine with me because I had no desire to get involved in their pending atomic bomb of drama. Mom is healthy. Baby is healthy. You'll probably want to be alone. Bye bye. When I worked at a hospital I was talking to an OB nurse at lunch who said there was a lucky father up on the floor with his wife and his side action both delivering on the same day. OB-GYN. It's really awkward. Like really awkward. Like get the heck out of that room as fast as you can awkward. Both times I can remember the dad was super happy about the baby until he got a good look at it. Nobody blew up or got in huge fights. They just left. I honestly can't remember wanting to be done with a delivery more in my life. I also remember doing a delivery with a black couple that got temporarily awkward. Sometimes black babies will come out very pale except for their scrotum. If a male, of course, which is dark. I remember the dad looking at mom and then looking right at me and saying what's up. We were frantically showing them that this child was, in fact, not white. I could see that guy going from zero to furious until we showed him evidence. Friend of mine is an L&D nurse. She had the father of a very white trash couple ask if it was normal for his newborn son to have such a black sac. He's a healthy baby. It happens sometimes. The skin tone will usually even out over time. Yeah, to a nice milk coffee color. My cousin met and married her first husband when she was already about 2 months pregnant. He knew about the baby and was happy about being a dad, even though he wouldn't be genetically related to him. Well, the time comes and she pushes out this obviously half black baby. I was in the room with them and got to watch the nurse do this back and forth between the two of them like she was just waiting on some kind of explosion. Also, when the lady came in to do the birth certificate stuff, when she asked about the dad, she was trying to be very delicate and asking if he was going to be on the birth certificate or not. It was pretty funny. They ended up divorced a year later because she cheated on him every time she came home to visit, and I finally broke down and told him that it really was happening. He got custody of the first baby and another baby she got pregnant with after the divorce. That's a different, longer story though. I'm a light-skinned female, raised by my Finnish mother and her side of the family. My biological father was not involved in my upbringing, but my mother decided to look him up around when I was 20. I'm 26 now. I had always known that I had some very different physical characteristics from the rest of my family, yet still, and without being corrected, assumed I was 100% Finnish. Imagine my surprise upon meeting my bio dad for the first time and encountering a very dark-skinned, almond-eyed African-American Japanese man. I hid my shock and skepticism for the duration of our awkward dinner and night at the casino, which is a fricked up story for another time. Later though, upon examination of our features side by side in photos, the resemblance was pretty strong. I looked a bit like a young, female, photo negative of him. So, yeah, that crap happens. Epilogue, I never saw him again. He had to get back to the PGA Tour. I personally haven't, but I had a friend from college that had this happen. The baby came out slightly darker than either of them, and with black hair. Well, she had brown and he was blonde, so it really didn't add up. My friend said the doctor was acting very weird about the whole thing, but my friend didn't suspect a thing. Turns out she had non-dominant genes that took over, so it ended well. My oldest sister is light brown, almost dirty blonde-haired, blue-eyed. My other sister is blonde-haired, green-eyed. Me, my mom, and my dad are black-haired, brown eyes with heavy Native American influences. All three blood-related. We're just half Irish as well. It happens. I'm an OB and I've never really had a serious question of paternity in the delivery room. The newborn's color and appearance can change pretty dramatically in the first few days, so I never read much into it. It's such an emotional and serious moment. Families usually focus on the joy and relief. The place where I often get questions about paternity is in the office. There are lots of situations where this can come up, but most commonly revolves around the due date. Most often it's the woman, but sometimes the father will ask me to estimate the date of conception so they can determine who the father is likely to be, or not to be. So, for example, a husband has been deployed overseas for a known block of time, and the question is, could he have fathered the child if they were not together during this time frame? This happens pretty often, and women especially try to camouflage their questions. It's pretty easy to recognize now, so I just sit down and ask if this is a question regarding paternity and take it from there. Let me know if you have any other questions. I feel like my mother can relate. She is mixed but looks black, and my father is white. When me and my siblings were born, each time she had issues when it was time to take us home until my father was around. This was before hospitals had decent ways of identifying kids. Even now, I am somehow pale as heck and lighter than my father, so growing up everyone assumed my mom was a nanny. Personally, it amused me more than anything. That's definitely a post I want to keep on. Since no obstetricians made their way here yet, I'll share my short story. I came through normal birth. The doc saw the advanced labor stage my mother was in and simply freaked out, leaving her waiting. A painful time later, another doc takes over and has me delivered. I spent so much extra time in there that I came out a dark shade of purple. Stares were exchanged. They just didn't have the heart to tell you, your mom banged an alien. I am not a doctor, but I did grow up with a girl who was very dark skinned when both her parents were light skinned. It turned out to be a freak genetic thing though. My oldest has very olive skin, and I'm white. Her dad is very white. It's weird. In the summer, she'd get so naturally tan she was as dark as lighter skinned Hispanics. I got asked all the time if she was French. I have no idea why. It's always been a joke among us how much darker she is than the rest of us. Anesthesia. First, I'll admit it, I love doing scheduled non-emergent C-sections. There have been occasions where the dad's or significant other already knows that the child isn't theirs. It's an awkward moment sometimes. You have to feel out the dad if he is genuinely happy, unsure if he should be happy, sad, or he is just upset about the situation. More times than not it's the I have a new baby in the family but I'm not sure how I should feel BC it's mine but it's not mine, so my job is to care for the mother's well-being first. You must maintain a higher level of respect. Some do not understand that a black baby does not come out black or dark brown. I think they come out pretty shade of pink, grey, or a light shade of tan. I'll never forget one instance where a black male around 20 years old was furious that the baby came out healthy pink. At first he was quiet, then he started huffing and puffing, saying that's not my baby and things like that, pacing back and forth. I asked him to step out of them room and we'll take care of mom and baby. My responsibility is for the safety and well-being of the mother first. I am all for having a good time, smiles and tons of picture taking and music, but ultimately my focus is 100% on mom. If you have any medical questions, consult your OBGYN or anesthesia care provider. Not an obgyn, but it happened to a friend of mine. He's white, his wife was black. Baby came out and the docs had to do a double take. Baby came out very dark. He didn't think twice about it until they got divorced a year later and she wanted child support. Turns out it wasn't his. He just had a kid with his new wife. The baby looks exactly like him. Some states make the married guy pay child support even if the baby isn't biologically his. I am a Caucasian and so is my wife. When our third daughter turned up, she had very dark skin color and so fat she resembled a Shar-Pei puppy dog. I was quite surprised. Within around 30 minutes her skin had gone to pinky white, and the wrinkly skin disappeared, but I must admit I was pretty surprised at first. She is now a gorgeous willowy blonde, but you would not have guessed from her arrival. My sister is white and my brother-in-law is from a very light-skinned Portuguese family of which he's the darkest member. Think Sofia Vergara dark. Not dark at all. My sister gave birth to a slightly darker skinned girl similar to Halle Berry's skin tone. My niece is the darkest member of the family. Her paternity was never in question, but we all find it interesting that a half-white child is darker than the rest of the full-blooded Portuguese side. Not a medical professional, but when I was in the Navy, we had gotten back from deployment in January, after having left on deployment in July. It was May, and my father passed away, so I was going home to bury him. My ship was visiting a Canadian city, so we were taking a ferry back to home port and then I was to fly out to bury my father. I was traveling with a second-class PO from my ship that I wasn't very close with but was cool with. He was telling me all about how his wife and how she was almost due to pop with their kid. I was drinking at the time, so I asked point blank how the frick that worked because the math didn't add up. He said the doctor told him that since they were having sex up until the day we left on deployment they just had some wacky timing. I didn't buy it, but he seemed to, and it's not my life so I didn't press the issue. 1 month later a baby of a different race was born to her and he promptly divorced her. Thing is, he didn't seem mad about it. He would just crack jokes about that W he was married to. Navy life leaves you jaded towards relationships. I'm sure this will get lost in the comments, but when I was born, my mom and dad were both 20. I was their first baby. My dad was very hot-headed and got mad over very little things. Well, when my mom was in labor with me, the umbilical cord got wrapped around my neck. Nothing too serious or life-threatening. They think it happened as I was about to come out. 2 pushes and 9 pounds 8 ounces later, I came out purple and covered in blood. So to my dad, I looked black for about 3 seconds until the doctor unwrapped the cord. My dad was ready to hit something. He still tells me that story to this day. My parents have divorced since and he jokes that I'm the milkman's daughter. TLDR. My dad thought I was born black. My dad joked that I looked like the milkman's daughter in the hospital when I was born. My doctor didn't find it one bit funny, but my parents did. He's a milkman. A couple of family friends are a white couple and they had a black baby. The husband left the wife after she was born, but the wife knew that she hadn't cheated on him. After a long time of fighting and the wife begging, they did a paternity test and the baby did belong to him. They somehow had a black baby. I imagine that marriage took some repairing after that, given how quick he was to ditch and not even be willing to take a test. Both of my parents are black, and my mom is darker than my dad. When I was born I came out white as a sheet with blue eyes and red hair, so people were more shocked I came out of my mom in the first place. Apparently the nurse just kinda held me, reluctant to give me to my mom, saying but she's awfully pale. Older brother was born on the 1st of April 19-something when dads had to wait outside while the baby was delivered. Doctor walked out with a black baby, parents white, and my dad flipped his tea. Doctor declared April Fools in time to save the marriage. Nowadays you'd probably get sued, but this is hilarious. In my labor and delivery rotation there was a young girl about to give birth. I heard the nurses talking and making bets and stuff, so I asked what was going on. The man that was in there with the girl was who I imagined the dad was. Girl and man 1 broke up. Girl met man 2 and had a one-night stand, but it turned into a little more than that. But girl decided to get back with man 1. Found out she was pregnant and didn't know who the dad was. Man 1 said he would raise the baby no matter what and that man 2 better never show his face. But man 2 wanted to be there for the birth of the kid in case it was his. Both men were there and they took turns seeing the baby after it was born. Man 2 was pretty excited, like had his whole family there and everything. I secretly hope it was his. I never found out. Also man 2 was Hispanic, but you couldn't really tell any features about the baby. It could have gone either way. Sweet. A story without an ending. Reminds me of a joke. A couple just had a baby. It looks like a multitude of races. Black skin, Asian eyes, blonde hair, etc. Father says, probably the sex party from last Christmas. Mother says, let's hope he doesn't bark. A little, well, kind of a lot off topic, but it sorta relates. A while ago, I was dating a girl who was in an open relationship with another guy. I will always love her for the way she told me that she was pregnant. Hey, so I just wanted to call you and let you know that we counted days and it's absolutely not yours, but I'm pregnant. Also, the father is from a different ethnic background than the mother and I, and when the kid was born, I was incredibly glad to see that the kid was adorably mixed. You can't tell who is the father just by looking at the children. That's why they actually have paternity tests. It's entirely possible for a white couple to have black children. There was a famous case in South Africa where a white couple had non-identical twin girls, one white and one black. You haven't seen my kids. It looks like they cloned my husband to create a little version. I was just in an apartment that kid rented for most of a year. I'm a resident now. Had a mom come in to deliver. As we got her back to the actual delivery suite, the nurse was going over how many people could be in the room. The rule says 3, but usually in our hospital we'll allow more as long as you don't act insane. The mom mentioned something about the baby daddies needing to be there. That's right. Baby daddies plural. Sure enough, I come back for her cervix check and there are 2 men in there at the head of the bed. No one knows who the father is, but in a raffle ticket drawing type situation they stood around for the delivery waiting to see who won the baby. Now, the guys were a light-skinned African American guy and a very dark-skinned African American guy. Now if you have seen black newborns, they tend to be very light-skinned initially, even if the parents are both very dark. So the baby comes out very light-skinned and the light-skinned guy literally points at the dark-skinned guy and yells, "Frick, you told you it was mine." They started arguing and had to be removed from the room by the nurse while the other resident and I cleaned up down there. Oh, city hospitals. When I was an L&D nurse, this was around 2007-ish, this mom comes in for induction of labor. She has her husband and her guy she cheated with in the room. This was a okay moment. Got her settled in and the induction started, asking her questions for admit screening, etc. She tells me, if the baby is mine and my husband's we are keeping it. If the other guy is the father we are giving the baby up for adoption. I ask about what DNA paternity service they are using. Well, I will just look at the baby and I will know. Note, each person in the room was the same race with both men having similar features, dark hair, brown eyes, skin tone. She kept the baby because she just knew. I bet it was more like she wanted to believe. Not an obgyn, but my dad is a doctor and was once called out to a pub where a woman was having severe abdominal pain. He arrived and everyone was looking pretty worried. He did a few checks, then congratulated her. She was pregnant. Things got awkward when her boyfriend took my dad to the side and asked, "But doctor, how can this happen when I had a vasectomy 5 years ago?" It can happen. I've assisted in CS where tubes had been tied previously, vasectomies had been performed, etc. In my hospital we do a pregnancy test on any female under 55 who has not had a hysterectomy. Since there's no serious tag, although I'm not an OB, I'll throw my anecdotal hat in the ring. When I was in the military I was stationed with a rather white trash guy who was married to an equally white trash woman. We were stationed in Germany, and she being a Brit she would often go home when we got deployed. Anyway, she eventually catches pregger, and this dumb crap starts going on and on about how he's going to sue the bastard who performed his vasectomy. We at first thought he was kidding, but sadly, no, he was quite serious. Kicker, when the baby was born clearly mulatto, he attributed it to the fact that he was 1/1000th Cherokee Indian or some crap. I watched an episode of Grey's Anatomy once where a woman had 2 uteruses and she had a baby from a different daddy in each one and they were different ages. I saw something like that on an episode of Maury, except she only had 1 uterus and was impregnated by 2 guys within hours of each other. One twin was white and the other was black. My girlfriend is a social worker. This is not her case but someone in her team. One of her clients had twins. One black, one white. Dad's unknown. She has had in the region of 14-17 kids, all of which have died very young of complications due to alcohol and drug use during pregnancy or been fostered adopted. My cousin is half black half white. So is her hubby. They are both dark-skinned, brown eyes. Her first son has dark and brown eyes. Second son, white as anything, red hair, green eyes. People routinely think that he's adopted as he looks nothing like his parents or his brother. When my son was born he had very Asian-like facial features and he was fairly white. Since his father hadn't been around the hospital much since he was born, 2 of the nurses seemed rather shocked to see a black man coming and saying he's the father. As far as the father goes, I had warned him ahead of time that the initial coloring may not be his actual skin color for life, so he wasn't freaked or anything. But apparently he didn't relay that to his family because his mom was in butt about the whole thing. She had seen how pale he was in pictures right after he was born. When she came to visit after we were home she was looking him over and declared, "Okay, I can see that he is yours now. He's got your nose and eyes. I'm glad to see that's the case." Freaking what? Obviously labor is not like it is shown on TV. During the waiting period my wife and I watched TV. As luck would have it, a Maury Povich You Are Not the Father episode was on. A nurse comes in to check on my wife and is sucked into the show during one of the vilest villainous father is denying his son. There are huge overhead pictures of the father next to the almost identical looking baby, a screaming mother, a screaming grandmother, an audience who wants to smash the father's head in. Then the big reveal, Maury says we got the paternity test and you are not the father. Stunned silence. The man immediately walks off the stage and when they ask him if he has anything to say, there is no response. He walks right out of the studio. Back in the delivery room are me, my wife and this nurse. I turn to my wife and say in a deadpan voice, "I want the test." After 10 seconds we both burst out laughing but then we saw the look on the nurse's face. Not a doctor nurse, but when my Asian mom gave birth to me, my godfather, who is white, came to the hospital instead of my Asian father. My mom said the look on the doctor's and nurse's face was priceless. They felt so bad for him. What makes it funnier is that my godfather had long curly blonde hair at the time, so he looked like someone in a hair metal band happily carrying an Asian baby that obviously wasn't his. Not an OB. When our 3rd child was born, she was very dark skinned, and had black hair. The nurses were looking at each other suspiciously and cutting glances at me to see how I was taking it. Of course, being caught up in the whole euphoria terror of having a child. Yay, a new baby. I hope my wife lives through this. I saw their responses, but it did not exactly register. Things got even more awkward when people saw our neighbors, who were waiting to see us and the baby, as the neighbors Sarah and Jay are Indian, as in, from Delhi. The nurses really freaked when Sarah holds the baby, saying, "Oh, look, Jay, she could be my baby." It totally looked like Jay was the dad and I was just clueless. When I casually mentioned to the nurse that the dark skin and hair is due to my wife being Irish Cherokee, the tension in the staff totally eased. We still call her our little papoose, even though she is a tall, stunning teenager and her skin looks more like her mother's Irish complexion now. Both my son and daughter were born looking like tiny grumpy old men. I told my husband I didn't remember sleeping with a tiny crabby faced old men both times. Turns out all babies look like crabby old men when they are born. OPPS. All natural delivery newborns come out looking like Winston Churchill after a night of heavy drinking. A friend of mine got pregnant towards the end of senior year. The baby came out black. Mother and father were white, and the two began a huge shitstorm. The baby died the same day due to an extreme allergic reaction. Not an OBGYN, but I do have an interesting story. A black girl I used to know ended getting pregnant. She said the father was between a white guy and a Hispanic guy, so all throughout her pregnancy both of these guys are involved, just in case. Well, the baby comes out and you can tell it is 100% black. She sees it and just goes, "Oh, it was that guy." The two guys in the room just look at each other and walk out together without saying a word. My uncle is an obstetrician. He told me that one time the baby came put Asian and both of the parents were white and the man actually punched the woman. Got sued. One other story was that there was a Muslim couple and the baby was white. Skin disorder, however the father was screaming. I did not know eye doctors delivered babies. Happened to my friend. His wife is a redhead. He is blonde. Baby is Sue, half black. We've never once spoken about it. She's 8 now and they have 2 more kids together. He's evidently raising her as his own. As I said though, we've never spoken about it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.